Welcome to 20 Minute Tabletop, a podcast sharing the love of all things tabletop gaming in bite-sized pieces. I'm your host, John Wicke, here today with my co-host, Stevie. We're back from our hiatus. It lasted a little longer than we wanted to, but that's life. So we're back after almost a year to give you more tabletop goodness.
Let's be honest, you have a drawer where all the odds and ends get thrown. Or at least, you likely have a drawer that eventually turned into one. That's okay, because one person's junk drawer is another person's board game. This week, we're here to talk about a game of organization that we picked up at PAX Unplugged called Junk Drawer.
So, let's learn about the game by turning to the back of the box. It's time to finally organize that messy junk drawer. Carefully arrange your items among 4 compartments, each with a unique organizational goal. Can you cleverly place your items to keep the most organized junk drawer? Let's talk about our first impressions of this organizational game.
Okay, but basically it's Tetris, but as a board game.
Yes, it's Tetris with twists, and you know my car packing skill, so I love a game where it's all about getting things in the right place and as much crammed in as possible.
Let's talk about that setup. Junk Drawer has really easy setup. The goal of the game is to organize items into your 4 junk drawer compartments. You start by setting up the organization board in the center of the play area. This is a board divided into 4 color and shape-coded sections where you have objectives for the game. Next, you'll fill each section with an organization card. These can be any 4 of these goal cards at random, any 4 you like, or you can use the suggested scenarios from the rule book. Each card has a description, scoring details, and an example item layout with an example score and challenge rating of easy, medium, or hard. For your first game, it's best to pick 4 easy cards to get a feel for the game. The harder the challenge rating, the harder it is to score a lot of points, as scoring is based on placement of the pieces.
Next, you shuffle in the item cards and create a face-down deck. Then everyone gets a junk drawer that have the matching colors and symbols and sets of 21 item tiles, and you're ready to play. So, this is a pretty easy game to get up and running, and it's a lot of fun. So, let's jump in and learn how we play with the mechanics of junk drawer.
The game is played in rounds. Each round, you flip over 4 cards, one at a time. You will flip over a card, everyone will find the matching item tile, and then place it in a compartment. The key is that each item in the round needs to go into a different compartment. So on the 4th card, you're forcing that item into wherever you can in that last compartment. The item can be rotated however you like, but it cannot overlap, and it must be fully within the compartment. They come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, so it's fun to see what the shape will look like for that item.
Strategy comes into play on how you place them. So the organization cards give you a goal and details of how you're going to score points. They center around either covering or leaving open areas for scoring. So an easy goal is simply cover as many spaces as possible, getting 1 point per square. However, a different easy goal is to not cover the corners or the center space. Each one left uncovered will net you 3 points instead. Some of the harder goals aim to leave gaps uncovered or leave at least 1 uncovered space per row or column, so it really gives a good variety on how you want to place these pieces.
Yeah, one of my favorite sets of goal cards are the ones that we got from their, I think it was their Kickstarter or their early backers kit that we picked up when we purchased this game. And it's actually using your tiles to spell the letters J, U, N, and K in each different compartment. And that's very challenging, but it's a very unique way to play the game once you've gotten good at it. And I really like that one.
So the game continues on, turn by turn, placing as many tiles as possible. And it ends when any player cannot place an item tile. That becomes the last one placed. However, that isn't can't place following goal, that's can't place it anywhere within a compartment without overlap and being inside the borders. So if you can place it and it'll mess up your goal, you still have to place it.
Right. There's also a variant mode offered that when a player can no longer place a tile, it simply means that their game is over. Other players continue until they cannot place anymore, and when the final person is done, the game is over. This is interesting because For covering space, it gives you a chance to score more, but for the goals that require you to leave spaces uncovered, there's a higher chance that you'll be forced to cover some of those spaces and not score as many points.
Then at the end, you add up your score based on the details laid out on the organization cards, and the highest score wins. If you want to play in solo mode, you follow the normal rules of play, but your goal is to try and beat the example scores on the organization cards.
And you know I like nothing more than a solo mode challenge. Let's talk about how much we like the game.
I love the different goals for the compartments because it makes it not just a game about fitting in as much as possible, but also doing it in certain ways to score more points.
Yeah, I like the problem solving aspect and that the goals can change every game, making the scoring different each time you play. It also makes it really replayable easily.
Yeah, and the variety of the items for their shapes and sizes is really cool. So you have keys that cover 5 squares, but the 3 keys stick out in different directions. Sunglasses that are in a C shape, or 2 bag clips together making it a large plus symbol, or maybe just the 1 space button or 2 space glue sticks. They do a great job of picking the kind of items you'd have in a junk drawer. And the art is great as well. They do a great job to kind of fill that shape organically based on the item that you'd have in your drawer, but also the tiny details like the one with the pencil and a rubber grip at the end. You may see some faint chew marks down the pencil.
I also like that each shape is unique, so none of the shapes are repeated within those 21 items, which is another part of the challenge. Once you draw a card for an item, you're not going to see that shape again in that game. So that means if you really need, say, that C shape in a specific compartment, but you draw it as the fourth card and you're forced to put it in a different compartment, you have to rethink your strategy because that C shape isn't going to show up again this game.
And the organization cards are a key part of the game, and it makes it really fun. So as you talked about, it really gives variety. So some of the cards take some real strategic placement when you want to leave that one space uncovered or with a gap. Trying to find the perfect item to cover what you need and leave that part alone is really tricky, and finding that right piece as it comes up. And with 4 items per round, they each go in a specific compartment. So some of the time you have to dealing with best whatever you have left. So you're kind of risking that, what am I want to put this one in and leave open, towards the end. You have to see if your strategy that you picked either plays off early, or maybe, the final card of the round either helps you out perfectly or really ruins your strategy.
Yeah, and I love a good Tetris style challenge. This is simple and straightforward in the rules, but the draw the cards and the choices in organizational cards with those goals keep it different every time. And it feels great when you're trying to cover a weird shape, like the special letter organization cards I pulled up earlier. And then you get the earphones, which just wind your way to cover up part of that K perfectly.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Like I said, that replayability. It's easy to understand, so it's easy to start playing. The idea is, look, we're going to go through, we're going to draw these, we're going to put your pieces in there, and you're going to try and fill the box up. Makes it straightforward, and it's not hard to teach anyone. It's easy to just pick up and play. There's not a lot of difficulty to it, but it has that strategy that you can think a little harder and try a little harder on it, so it makes it more of a challenge.
Even if you're not the biggest fan of Tetris, it's still a fun game because you're talking about problem solving in this situation. Um, our eldest does not really like Tetris, but loves organizing. So this speaks right to their preferences and things that they enjoy because they're thinking about, okay, how can I get all this stuff in here and fit nice and neat in this little square? Whereas I'm thinking about do 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 do. The Tetris music is playing in my head the whole time we're playing. And like you said, it is really easy to play. I think when this was PAX 23 that we bought this, we were walking down the aisle, and this is the year that our son would just walk up to people and go, "Tell me how to play your game." And they were able to teach us this game in under 5 minutes in a fashion that our, at the time, 9-year-old easily understood and picked up because as soon as they finished explaining the rules, he goes, "All right, let's play." And they started playing against one of the creators of the game.
Yeah, and I think at one point one of our kids also was like, "The heck with the rules in the round. Let's just see how well we can fit all these things into these boxes perfectly as much as possible," which is also kind of fun, bonus game.
Yeah, it's definitely good for like that visual spatial awareness if that's something you're working on with your little ones. But the ease of play cannot be overstated, honestly. It's not rule heavy. It's not setup heavy. It's very much just, all right, read through this, and go.
Like I said, it's a great game to bring people. Like, we keep talking about our kids, but it's not a kid's game, but it's one that it's accessible to them. So like, this is great to just break out with people to try and play and see who can do the best and get competitive with those high scores.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see pulling this game out when my parents are here, and it's a good one for them because, again, not rule heavy. We can teach them how to play in 5 minutes, but yeah, my family, they're super competitive, so they're all going to try and max out their scores.
So when we're playing the game is made for 1 to 4 people and has a length of 20 minutes plus. Obviously, the more people you have, the more time you're thinking about how you're going to place your piece, so it'll take a little bit longer. So it really lasts on, the last person who can't place that piece is when their game ends. So when that happens, that'll really end your game. So, it depends on how well you guys are doing your strategy. We'll keep the game going for longer, but that's kind of where it cuts off. And just the time and placement of that strategy, if you have people who really, really think it through, your game's going to take a little longer because each round is going to take a little bit longer.
I definitely think our games err on the side of being longer, just purely due to how many strategy-focused people we have in our house. But I could also see the solo mode taking a really long time if you're trying to specifically beat those posted scores. That being said, I would love for them to put out an expansion pack for this, kind of like how Catan and Sagrada have done that, to turn this into a 5 to 6 player game, because I think it would be fun to add to how many people are at the table.
So to talk a little bit more of the game and some notes on it. So Junk Drawer is from Winsmith Games and 25th Century Games. The game was designed by David Smith with Travis Winstead on game development and art by Asha Farmer and Sebastian Koziner on graphic design. The game was kickstarted in 2022, which brought the game to life.
And as we mentioned, we picked this up at PAX Unplugged 2023. But last month when we were walking around the floor, I saw them again with Junk Drawer because I walked by at one point and I told one of the guys doing the demos, I'm like, love your game. He's like, thanks. I said, we play it a lot because it's such a good, like we said, quick start, easy to pick up game.
So let's go into those final thoughts.
Again, not to overstate, but it's easy to learn, easy to play, and endlessly replayable due to all the variable factors.
I'd say it's quick to pick up, great variability in play and challenge, and definitely a long-term keeper on the game shelf. Though I feel the urge to shove it in a random drawer just for the humor of it.
You would.
But you won't let me.
No, because my game closet is nothing if not organized.
I'm your host, John Wiki, and you can find me on Threads and Instagram as John_Wiki_Games. That's Wickee.
And I'm Stevie, and you can find me on social media as Stevies_Games.
20 Minute Tabletop is a Morecore Studios production. Theme song by Arthur Rowan, Morecore art by Sita Duncan. Do you want more tabletop gaming fun? Subscribe to 20 Minute Tabletop on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Like what you hear? Leave us a review while you're there or tell a friend. Find out more on our website, 20mintabletop.com. That's the numbers 20mintabletop.com. Or connect with us on Threads and Instagram as @20mintabletop, @20mintabletop. Thank you and roll with fortune. Welcome to 20 Minute Top. Wow.
Ooh,
I got the
right out the
name
gate.
wrong out the gate.
Right out the gate.